friends. Welcome to the Seek Holy Living podcast with Krista Svoboda. I am a wife to my wonderful husband, mom to my 5 precious children, and a friend to some amazing moms that I can't wait to introduce to you. Mothering is not a journey meant to be traveled alone. Join me every Monday for a new podcast where you will find hope, joy, and purpose. The Christmas season is such a special time of year, and this year is extra special for us as we have our sweet new baby with us. This is Graham, and he is about a month old, and he is such a joy. On today's episode, we enjoy a warm conversation about ways that we can bring the wonder, hope, and joy of Christmas to life in our homes. The treasured decorations, the smells of the season, songs we sing, the food we savor, and the love we share brings Christmas to life for you and your family. Today, I get to invite you into this wonderful Christmas conversation with my mom, Connie Burroughs, and a dear family friend who is like another mom to me, Lori Smith. These experienced moms both create beautifully welcoming spaces in their home where family and friends feel genuinely loved and known. They have so much to share about how they make celebrating Christmas and the birth of Jesus come to life in their homes each year. I just know that you are going to be inspired. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Mom, for coming back again.
Sure.
And thank you, Lori, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's going to be great. So this is so special to talk about getting our homes ready for Christmas because our homes just set the tone of the season for our whole family. So let's just jump right in, talking about our homes and Christmas. That our homes create an atmosphere for everyone who lives within them, for ourselves and for our husbands and for our children. So I thought it might be fun to kind of talk through our senses at Christmas. I think it's such a sensory time that it's kind of fun to talk about the different ways that we create an overall environment of celebrating the uniqueness and specialness of the season. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's start with our smell.
Oh,
is that okay? Can we start
sure.
with smell? I think smell is obviously I have candles all over. I think it's one of my favorites. So smell and Christmas, how do you create that in your home? You want to start, Lori?
Sure. Thinking back years ago, I think I've had these ornaments for probably 20 years. We made these cinnamon applesauce ornaments. Silliest thing, 2 ingredients, right? So we mixed those up, rolled them out, cut them out in little ornament shapes. And they took probably 2 or 3 weeks to dry
out.
But they smelled so good. And they made the house smell so good. And they probably lasted, well, I still have them.
Yes.
And they've been smelling good for about probably 25 years.
Yes.
Seriously, that was just a really, cinnamon, that's like kind of the quintessential Christmas smell. And it was just a really fun activity to get to do with the children when they were little.
Okay, well, and that's a fun idea too, because I think it's something that if you have little kids that you could lead that as a mom easily.
Sure.
And you can go to one of those bulk food places and buy bulk cinnamon for super cheap and be able to do that. Just start now when this is being released because they won't be dry for a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, be able to have those and then they could hang them up. Mm-hmm. But if you have older kids, I think that's something that you could give them the task. Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's your stuff. Mm-hmm. Go for it. Yeah. And let them create it completely. I remember we did those once also as gift tags that we put them on presents and it made all the presents smell good. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of funny. So my kids, we did that once also. And my kids have told me that they lick them sometimes because they were always curious about how they taste. But they were like, Mom, we always licked it when you weren't looking. I don't know if that makes it better. So maybe you'll need to ask your grown children.
Yeah, and ours probably got a little dusty.
If they ever in secret licked those ornaments. What about you, Mom? What about the smells of our home?
It's funny. You may not remember, but we actually made them one
year,
too.
No, I remember we did, yeah.
And we made them to give to neighbors as Christmas gifts.
Uh-huh.
But the other things, I guess really a lot of it was even things we were cooking around Christmas time. So if I made wassail, that made the house smell the same. Mm-hmm. Cinnamony, orangey, clovey, those all nice smells at Christmas. And or sometimes I remember people giving me or us purchasing mulling spices that are just to sit on the stove and mull, smell so nice. Mm-hmm. And then some of the things we were just cooking that were Christmassy things. We, of course, made sugar cookies and cut them out and things like that. So there were always nice smells at Christmas.
Yeah. I remember the one you talked about, the cider, and that one of the steps of that cider was that we would have to have the oranges, that then you put the cloves all in. And I thought that was so fun. I loved, well, at least for the first like 10 minutes. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Real quick, push all the rest in.
Yes.
But that was fun. And I've carried that over with my kids, that we do that. And they so look forward to getting to create that. And one year when we were doing it here, and then something happened with our oven. I think it broke. And I had already planned that I was making this cider or this wassail, and it was like for an event. And that one step is to do that. And I even thought it's going to make the house smell so good for these ladies coming over. We'll have this nice drink. The kids will have felt like they had a chance to be a part of preparing for serving these women by making these, like the oranges with the cloves. And then my oven broke, which was part of the process. And so I asked my neighbor, though, would you mind if I use your oven to cook these oranges with the cloves? And she was so sweet because she said, our house smells amazing. And I thought, I know that's what mine was supposed to smell like. But I'm glad yours smells amazing. But those are great ones. Okay, what about the sights of Christmas in your home? How to make it look the way that just really speaks to your family's heart. Mom, you want to start?
Well, it was funny because while you guys were all growing up, we actually spent Christmases every year in Dallas because that was where all of our extended family was. But I was determined that we were going to have our own Christmas at home before we left so that you guys would experience all of Christmas. So there was a piece of me that was like, why am I putting up a tree and doing all these things? But it was good. It was good to do all of those things, even if we weren't going to be there actually on Christmas.
Because I think the day itself is really, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
No.
It just felt like we had a lot of Christmases.
Yeah, that's because I told you it didn't matter.
You did well.
Yeah. But so we did. We set up a tree and we had nativity scenes and all the kind of traditional things you would think of for Christmas. But I always felt like I wanted to keep my audience in mind. And so our home never had things in it that I was afraid you guys might break. So I didn't have even the ornaments on our tree. We had a traditional way that we did the ornaments on the tree that started in a funny way that somebody gave me, when you were born, gave me a picture frame ornament, you know, baby's first Christmas. And so I put your picture in it and hung it on the tree. And it went with all the other ornaments. Well, the next year I thought, well, that'd be fun to get another Christmas ornament that was a picture frame ornament. And I'll put her in it for the next year too. Well, that just continued, and now our whole tree is the faces of all
35 years later.
Yes, of all of my children and grandchildren and their spouses all over our Christmas tree. But those were something, if a child picked that up off the tree and looked at it, it wasn't going to hurt you or the ornament. And in fact, I didn't even use those metal hooks. We just used ribbons for many years. We actually have hooks now, but we just used ribbons for many years so that I wasn't worried. So I think the main thing for me with the decorating, I wanted the house to be decorated for Christmas, but I didn't want that to mean now you guys have to be careful in our home. I wanted to be inviting to my guests, which were my children.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Lori?
Well, I love decorating for Christmas, so I kind of get a jump start. You know, day after Thanksgiving, those boxes are out of the garage and opened up and stuff's all over the place. And it's so much fun to pull out things that we've had for years and years and years. But I also like to mix it up a bit. And the last few years, or maybe 10 years, we've been using a different theme.
Oh, that's fun.
So every Christmas is a little bit different. So we kind of tweak it. So then that's kind of fun for the kids to come back and, they get the big announcement of what this Christmas is going to be. And so it's kind of a fun time for my imagination.
So what was last year? Like, what are some of your
year
things
was
been?
Reindeer games.
Cute.
So I got a little golden book and cut the pages out. And I made a bunting for the mantle out of the little pages. It was really cute. And we had reindeer placemats, and we had brownies that looked like Rudolph. So it was just really simple. But then I had printed out some little games that we could play from off the internet, and we had a lot of extended families. So there were probably 30 of us and playing our reindeer games.
That's so
that was last year.
That's super fun.
So yeah, it's really fun to kind of mix it up and have something to look forward to, so that, I didn't really want my kids to look back on Christmas and have them all run together. Like every Christmas was exactly the same. So mixing it up a little bit was good. Also, I love bringing in a lot of fresh and natural things and using fruit, nuts, greenery, whatever happens to be growing from our yard. It's less to store that way. You throw it away after New Year's or you recycle. I guess we recycle everything, so that you're not filling up your attic or basement or your garage space with just box after box after box, because it can be can be quite a chore. And I figure if I can't get it all out and up in a half a day, it's probably too much. So, but that's just me. Some people, spend days decorating. So, if that's their thing, go for it.
Well, I love that idea. That's super fun, and so fun that a tradition has become expectation of what's going to be different rather than just sameness, and super fun for your kids and your grandkids too. Right. Okay, so I was thinking too, maybe you'll have to send me a picture of when you kind of reveal what this year's is too. I can put it on Instagram for whatever this year's fun theme is going to be. One thing for us with our sights of Christmas in our home, I think as my kids are starting to get a little bit older, is they want to be part of creating all of that, which I think is special because it's also training them. It's like training their hearts for beauty. Like it's kind of giving them, preparing them for one day when they have space. But it also has required me to be a little bit more open-handed, whereas I might want to say this is where I would picture all these things go. And they say Mom, look, we decided it'd be fun to put every nativity in the same place this year. And I'm well, that's a different way to do it. That's pretty cool. And then maybe it stays that way, or maybe it gets, slowly over a few days kind of redistributed to the way I pictured it was going to be ish. But it is neat, and it's been special to see that as I kind of slowly started giving them ownership over those things. They last year, my son even got out the Christmas tree by himself, which is really absurd because he was 10, and the Christmas tree, it's a fake tree, but it's pretty heavy and big. And he was so proud that he was Mom, if you can just help me get it from here to here, I can do the setup. And I was all right, let's go for it. Why not? And so we did. And because he had seen us get ready for this visual preparing of Christmas, he was excited to be part of it. And take ownership in that. Okay, what do you think about getting ready for the feelings of Christmas? Can you think of anything different in that category, Mom? Yeah.
I think just the idea of making it exciting, but not overwhelming. Sometimes I think for children, if there's just too many things that are different, it's too many things. So, but I didn't want it to just be mundane. So exciting, but not overwhelming for them. And sometimes, we've talked about, we can end up with so many things to do that then children feel hurried or rushed or, it's just too many things. So I think trying to keep things fun and exciting and different, but simple enough that it is fun for little ones, especially I think little ones. You don't want to get too many things going on. But the specialness of Christmas and making that extra time to read Christmassy books and to talk about the true meaning of Christmas and talk about my Christmases when I was growing up and things like that. I think it's important to have those and as you're around family, celebrating family time maybe in a different way than we normally do.
And slowing down in some of those ways that you otherwise wouldn't.
And that our family was very involved in Christmas programs at church. So there was a lot.
It was a full season.
It was very full. And that meant that I had to change my expectations for all of our life to say we can't suddenly have rehearsals 5 nights a week and think that week is going to be in any way normal. And so that meant, sleeping in a little later, just doing things a little different, maybe planning simpler meals than we would normally have, so that it was fun and not burdensome for you guys.
Yes, for sure. What about you, Lori? Any other thoughts on feelings of Christmas in your home?
Well, feelings in terms of touch, I thought about how we always had a nativity scene that the kids could play with.
Yes.
It was indestructible. We had a wooden one, but I know that there's all kinds out there that are available. So where the children learn the Christmas story, and then they can be retelling it to one another and to grown-ups who might come into the house.
Yeah.
So having that hands-on thing is always great. Also, I always put out a jigsaw puzzle. I'll pull out a card table and have I love jigsaw puzzles, and I get a little obsessed with them. So I allow myself one a year, and it's at Christmas time. So that's out. And, as kids get older, and you want to have those deep, heartfelt conversations,
Wow.
When everybody else goes to bed and you're sitting there at 11:30 at night with your preteen, just, looking for puzzle pieces. What a sweet time to talk about some of the deeper things that might be going on in their lives.
Wow.
Creating those times where you communicate in a deeper way, in a private way, sometimes is pretty
That's
special.
great.
Yeah. And having to have the space set up for it too, though, because if you didn't get if it wasn't out,
Right.
then the space wouldn't be there in the same way.
So creating an opportunity. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think too, you mentioned something about the like feelings of togetherness and that slowness, that one of the things we try to do is I have accumulated all these Christmas books over the years that, we get them out. They come out at the beginning of the season. And so we really try to read 1 or 2 books a day, because otherwise we don't get through all of them. And that's just been a fun thing of just an expectation that they just look forward to these books that only come out at that time, which is really special. And I think that could even go into the sounds of Christmas, talking about the things we hear. Because I guess that's one of the things they're hearing Christmas books, and that they just really look forward to that. Oh, what other sounds? You want to start on sounds, Lori?
Sure. Well, talking about sounds and music, it's going to have to come from the Burroughs family, because we Smiths can't carry a tune in a bucket. But, we love recorded music. We do sing. My kids have all married spouses who are musical, so that's
worked out well.
A bonus to our family. But I was thinking about really the sound of your own voice. The sound of a mother's voice, and bringing kind of a calm atmosphere into your home. Not just the tone of your voice, but what an opportunity to, like you're saying, read books, the mother singing, teaching children Christmas songs. But above that, I think storytelling, like Connie touched on that a little bit about Christmases past. And we use storytelling a lot in our family, both we did with our children and now with our grandchildren. A very powerful thing are fairy tales, and they're not hard to make up. And when we see maybe some character traits in a child that need to be developed, sometimes we will develop a story around a fairy tale, around something that needs to happen in their lives, and certainly we can relate it to Christmas and get really creative that way, and it helps their language skills so much to learn to be storytellers.
Well, and it's so non-threatening,
great.
Which is beautiful too, because it doesn't feel threatening to hear a story.
Right.
But then when it turns out that person was lying and you were lying, like, what a coincidence that happened in that story and that happened to me today. I wonder if Mom realizes that. That's wonderful. And just like so unguarded, which is beautiful. Well, if my kids start telling you, Mom's been telling me all these stories lately, you'll know why. What else, Mom? What do you think about sounds?
I do think about music that we especially I think in the car, we always had music going, and sometimes to sing along with, but sometimes just to listen. But we started listening to Christmas music just the same thing. As soon as Thanksgiving was over, on came the Christmas music. And quite honestly, at our house, because we had been preparing for Christmas programs.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, my husband actually starts listening to Christmas music in the car in July. And so we've been listening to Christmas music a long time by the time Christmas comes. But that was always fun to have Christmas music. But there was also something, when I was thinking about this a little bit, about even the quiet, that's an especially special thing too. I think about sometimes being in the room with the Christmas lights on the tree, and maybe have the lights down and have quiet and having a story time or just a conversation or curled up in the chair with somebody. Quiet is an important part of the season as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's really beautiful. One of the things that we've done with the sounds of Christmas too is I try to have us learn a different Christmas carol every week leading up to Christmas. That's not like a really complicated, but realizing there's a lot of richness to the carols, to those, like if you read about the person who wrote the carol, and you can read about why, like who wrote this carol and what was their story, why. And some of them weren't even written for Christmas. They were just written as songs to sing. And now we've just over the years put them in the Christmas place. And then once we have all of those, once we know those songs and they've learned, even the vocabulary of the songs are so rich, so much more so than just like Frosty the Snowman,
right?
Or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Because I think a lot of times when we think in America of like Christmas songs, like those are the ones, but those rich classic Christmas carols hold so much just meaning to them. And then being able to then go to a retirement home and sing them, or even during this last season where we haven't been able to be going places to like sing for people, we've just been calling our grandparents and singing it over the phone my grandmas actually. So for our great grandmas, and I know that that's really been a blessing to them.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so I do think with all of the Christmas, tastes. We didn't even talk about taste. We talked about the smells of the foods. Let's talk about the taste of the foods before we move on. So the taste of Christmas. You want to start on this one again, Lori?
Well, sure. Of course, what's Christmas without cookies?
Right.
So there's always cookie baking day in our family. And that's gone on, since I think we were first married. And, children came along, and my precious mother-in-law always hosted cookie baking day.
Aww.
So that's just a sweet, sweet memory that my kids have. And she would prepare all the dough ahead of time. So we got there for just all of the fun, rolling them out, baking them, and decorating them. It was a whole morning process. But we all went home with trays and trays and trays full of cookies. We would have lunch together, and it was just a great half day that we always put on the calendar every year. That happened. And she's gone now. She's in heaven celebrating Christmas with the Lord in person, which is phenomenal. But we keep the tradition going.
So are you doing it now?
Absolutely. So Christmas cookie decorating happens at our house. And, the homemade stuff is great. But here in Southern California, we have a local candy shop that makes homemade, their candy canes are just amazing. So that's part of our Christmas tradition too, to go to the candy store and buy those freshly made warm, if you haven't had a warm peppermint candy cane really before, that's a taste you'll never forget. But so it doesn't all have to be homemade, those tastes that are familiar that always come out every Christmas. Red and green M&Ms, that's part of Christmas at our house. So, that's, something you just pick up at the grocery store, but we look forward to having those out. So
wonderful. Yeah. And I like that those can all be low. It can be low stress,
right?
Which is important.
Yeah.
Mom, what about the taste of Christmas?
Yeah, I would say, we did the cut out sugar cookies and really just a few recipes that ended up being traditional recipes just because everybody liked them. And so we always made them. And one of the ones is our sweet potatoes that we always have at special occasions. And again, that makes a nice smell in the house. But that, and then the cookies, I can't think of really other things that we necessarily had specific.
Can.
Okay, you
because
tell me.
The different grandparents' house had different breakfast casseroles.
Well, that is true.
And so that's been a little bit tricky because when you have grandparents on each side doing different things, and then I say those tastes all equate Christmas, then now I have to decide, like, what all am I actually making?
Yes.
For Christmas morning.
Yes. And there were things at the grandparents' house, like what's yours, and now I'm adopting as well, but like the mocha punch, the traditional mocha punch.
Yes. I know. I'll put a link to that mocha punch recipe because that's an important one. Yeah. Well, okay. So I think with all of this, all of those are so life-giving. And when each of you talk about these things, like your eyes just come alive with excitement of like getting to create this. Like it feels like a privilege that I get to help do these things to serve my family well and to love them well. And that it has just spoken life, not only to the people in your home, but it's spoken life to you. Like as being the creator of this atmosphere, it just inspires you too. But what about the mom who's just like exhausted already, either with the heaviness of this year? This has been a really heavy year to then be going into Christmas, or with little ones that it can just feel overwhelming, or with older ones where maybe there's hard stuff with older kids that the idea of now and now I'm supposed to make Christmas a special thing. Great, that's on me. What advice would you give to that mom who's maybe feeling that way? Mom, you want to start?
Well, I think one thing is all of the things we've talked about, it doesn't have to be a big deal.
No.
Right? And it really, again, consider your audience. Who are the guests in your home? Mm-hmm. And so are you doing these things? Question yourself. What is my motivation? Why do I think I need to do these things? And so you don't
Not because you said that they should do them.
Yeah. That you need to do what serves you and what serves your children, what serves your husband. What would be a blessing to all of you. But I would also say, I had some years, and it wasn't like anything major was going on, but maybe I just thought, I just don't think I have it in me to do all of these things. But once we pulled those boxes down and we opened them up and got started, sometimes we just have to do things because it's the right thing to do, and then the feelings will follow. And so a lot, I would say, hang in there, mama. You can do it unless you really can't. Right. And then back off a little bit and
give yourself grace.
Make it a simpler year this year.
Yeah. So that's great. What about you, Lori?
I think planning ahead really helps a lot. And like you were saying, to really think ahead of time what is realistic, and then do less than what's realistic.
Yeah, because I think of what's realistic, and I'm pretty optimistic. And so my what's realistic may be realistic, but keep me up till 4 a.m, which does not make me a good mom the next day.
Right. And to leave margin in your life so that, if one night we just want to go Christmas caroling, or you hear about somebody's in town, you really like them to come over or something, or you just want to go to the park and play, you have the space to do that. Also, not to hold the Christmas dates so tightly,
for sure.
You can do Christmas any day.
Yes.
And if you have a really busy early December, let Christmas go into the middle of January. Who cares?
What child would ever say, well, I wish we had cleaned up from Christmas on January 1st?
No, you just keep it going. So, however that works out, in your schedule, your timing, and then also to delegate as children get older. Like you were talking about,
training
Krista, train them, let them take ownership, and they have a lot of fun doing that.
So, Lori, if you could give one piece of advice to a mom who says, where do I start? Like, this is new to me, but I want to do something. What advice would you give to her?
Yeah, I would say get yourself a notebook. Well, I'm old school.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I use a 3-ring binder, and I've got sections for theme, gift lists, menus, that kind of thing. So I'm a list maker. Not everybody is, but at least taking some time in the beginning of the season before you get going and before you lose your mind, kind of plan ahead a little bit, have some goals set so you don't blow the budget. So that if you kind of have your stuff together, it's going to go a long way in helping the rest of your family cope with a little different time of year.
That's great.
It's very different. We had the opportunity to take off. We homeschooled our kids. So we really celebrated Christmas from Thanksgiving until after New Year's.
Wow.
And we didn't do formal homeschooling during that time. They maybe do a little bit of math, but we were reading Christmas stories.
We call it Christmas school.
It's Christmas school, right. So it's a totally different season, and we made the most of it. And it's great that our kids have that to look back on, the memories that they made. I just wanted to mention one thing that my kids really appreciated as they got older. I started writing them Christmas letters. Aww. So they would get a letter in their stocking every year. Aww. And I would talk about things in ways that they've grown, things that they've been challenged with, but you persevered, or whatever it was, but words of encouragement for each child. And they have held on to those letters.
Aww. That's beautiful.
So that was a really sweet, meaningful thing that we were able to do.
Mom, what about you? If you could offer one piece of hope to a mom who really wants to try something.
Well, I love Lori's idea of making the list, and I should start earlier than I do. Because when would you say you start your Christmas planning?
In October.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's okay, mamas. This is coming out in December. So you're okay still.
Yeah.
But yes.
So early. And so I, because you can't just expect yourself suddenly to add in all these things if you don't cut some other things out. Mm-hmm. You can't just suddenly produce all of this on top of what you already do.
But I'd really like to.
I know. So I guess I would encourage, I guess the one thing if you've never done, Christmas much, anything at your house, just maybe think back on your own life if there was something special that you'd like to continue, or if there wasn't, who do you know in your circle of friends that you think, well, I like how they do that one thing, and just do that one thing.
Or take one idea from today.
Yeah.
So this is something I'm going to try.
Just do one thing. And then you can add more things over time, and your children will help you to add things. You'll start seeing what things do they love, and those are the things you'll want to include.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Mom, so much. And thank you for the Christmases you made for us.
Oh.
And thank you, Lori, for always welcoming us into your home at Christmas, and just for how both of your homes inspired me to hopefully create a space to encourage other moms to be able to do the same. Well, thank you both.
It's great.
Maybe you heard this podcast from a place where your Christmas looks and feels the same as any other year, but probably you're like me, and this year your celebration looks very different. Is your home more central to your Christmas season than it usually is? More than ever before, instead of Christmas events and holiday outings, our home and our close family and friends will be at the heart of this season. I have treasured preparing my home for the holidays this year because I understand and feel its importance now more than ever before. Instead of shoving the activities of home into a busy holiday schedule, home has become the schedule. Just this week, my children and I have been decorating with homemade garland of dried oranges, singing carols, making Christmas countdown trees, and reading Christmas books. The slowness of the space that we have this Christmas is allowing our home to come alive with tidings of comfort and joy. If your Christmas at home looks different this year, celebrate the gifts God is giving you in the differences, and be the conductor of comfort and joy in your home this season.
Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any of our weekly conversations. And check out our show notes below, where I have links to the resources mentioned on the podcast. I release a new podcast every Monday and additional content at seekholyliving.com, including a video of this conversation and a deeper dive into all things mom. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Seek Holy Living for more fun and conversation. If this was an encouragement to you, please share it with your friends. Join us next week as we talk about preparing our hearts for Christmas.